Welcome to Fantasy Football Free for All, Week 4 Waiver Wire Special. We're going to run through the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and quarterbacks that you're interested in this week. So, let's start at the running back position. Hill isn't exactly someone I'm just absolutely over the moon about. But if Todd Gurley gets hurt, he has locked up this backfield, and he looks like the clear handcuff. There were a lot of concerns that it would be Ito Smith, but it's not. It looks like it's Hill. Don't go crazy for Hill unless you're a Todd Gurley owner or you're able to take that kind of deep stash. If you're in a free agent dollars league, I would put between $1 and $5 on him. He's not somebody you're crazy about, but he's worth talking about. This poor 49ers backfield can't keep anybody healthy. With McKinnon and a rib injury, with just knocking out another player, how are we supposed to know who's going to start? One day they're all coming back. But with that knowledge that Raheem Mostert's out, Tevin Coleman's out, and Jerick McKinnon is dinged up, Jeff Wilson Jr., next man up. He's owned in just 13.7% of standard leagues, and he showed you real value last week. He's a more violent rusher between the tackles, and he's somebody that could get you production for 2 to 3 weeks. And on waivers, that's something at least to note. With the injury to Chris Carson and the unknown timetable for that knee sprain, Carlos Hyde immediately steps into one of the NFL's most premier backfields. Yes, Russell Wilson is going to throw this through the air, but they draw out the pass through the run. And Carlos Hyde had 1,000 yards last year. He quickly becomes a priority for not only any Chris Carson owners, but also anybody with a thin backfield. Myles Gaskin is the workhorse back in this backfield. I don't care what they paid Matt Breida. I don't care what they paid Jordan Howard. Myles Gaskin between the 20s is the back you want. He's just showing it. Not only is he Fitzpatrick's safety valve, but he's also running like he's playing for his job, which he probably is, but that gives fantasy players and fantasy managers tons of value. I don't know how Gaskin has lasted until this week 4, but now that he's there, get him. He is my number 1 running back waiver claim. He's also my number 1 waiver claim overall. You should also be dumping Matt Breida and dumping Jordan Howard. Neither of those 2 running backs have any value. This Dolphins team is thin on value to begin with, but those 2, welcome to Dumpsville. Moving on to wide receiver. They're looking for the one deep threat, and they've got the intermediate route runner in Jonnu Smith. And then Derrick Henry is going to run the ball down their throat. Corey Davis doesn't have a ton of value, but he's shown over the last 2 weeks that he's got enough value to be a flex play. So I have to include him here at number 4. T. Higgins is quickly stepping into that number 2 wide receiver role. I'm very high on this Cincinnati pass offense. I think Joe Mixon is really struggling. But T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, they're showing that they have that dynamic playmaking ability, and they're worth a roster spot. I struggle to say that he's a starter in a standard league or a 12-team league, but in a deep league, you need him on your bench. And if Davante Adams is out, it's clear that Aaron Rodgers is going to look to Allen Lazard, not MVS. Allen Lazard has value as long as Davante Adams is out. Last year, when he was the primary receiver, he was fantasy gold. He was consistent. You could get value out of him. That's why he needs to be in your bidding process or your waiver claims. Put him on your bench. He is akin to Russell Gage. He has huge upside, an okay floor. He's not somebody you would have drafted on draft day, but now that you know the situation, it's time to get him in your lineup. I mean, whenever a guy goes over 150 yards, you have to be a little excited. I mean, look, that's why Allen Lazard is on this list too. But the opportunity is there for Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson are the only two outlets for Kirk Cousins. And with Dalvin Cook a little nicked up, you're going to see that they have to go through the air even more. Kyle Rudolph is old. He's not going to be able to get you that fantasy production that you want. Take those slots that may be filled by some of the people we thought might break out and put Justin Jefferson and Greg Ward on your bench. All right, so when we're moving on to quarterback and tight end, realize that you don't know what you're going to get from tight end. And quarterback, some people are streaming. He saw targets from Phillip Rivers. He essentially took all the targets we thought were going to Nyheim Hines, and for 2 weeks, he has performed. I personally hate the Colts offense. I think that other than Jonathan Taylor, I think that the weapons are depleted and it's not fun to watch. But Mo Alley Cox has got a good floor for fantasy receivers. He's going to be touchdown dependent, but in this Cowboys offense, everybody's touchdown dependent. They're flinging the ball all over the place. I mean, so you want to, it's kind of like last year with the Chiefs, or 2 years ago with the Chiefs. You want a piece of that offense, and Dalton Schultz is a good option. Blake Jarwin was a fantasy darling for a lot of people before he blew his ACL. And now Dalton Schultz is stepping into that hole that was left. So go snag him. Jared Goff had a personal best last week. He torched this Buffalo defense that is supposed to be one of the best in the league. I think that's questionable now, but he rallied his team and he just went crazy. And as such, you want that type of production. Sean McVay said this is the best game of his life. Well, what we've seen is 3 back-to-back-to-back solid fantasy performances. And so I think, that's probably starting to look like a trend. If you have bye weeks coming up, which we all do, you want to see if maybe he would be a great bye week fill-in. Snag him the week before you need him, or maybe 2 weeks before you need him. Keep him on your bench, ride your stud, and then have him be in there and fill in for you. Joe Burrow is taking incremental steps every week to be a fantasy starter. It's truly surprising. We've got 2 games back to back where you would be okay with him in your lineup. Especially, in QB flex leagues or 2 QB leagues, like that, he's probably already gone. But more in standard 12-team and 10-team leagues, he has value for you. And you should be looking at him and evaluating whether or not, you've got that bye week fill-in. Go get him. Especially with, who he's better than Carson Wentz. So if you're a Carson Wentz owner, start either of these guys over Carson Wentz. Now, there are a couple of names that I want you to look just in case they're out there. Go get those players. All right. Thanks for watching another Waiver Wire special, and come back later this week for an injury report.